Chemistry Cram. Let's master this week's practical in under 10 minutes.
I'm going to be talking about Experiment 102, TLC. First, let's talk about the background of TLC. TLC is a chromatography technique used to separate non-volatile mixtures. It can be performed on a sheet of glass, plastic or aluminium foil, which is coated in a thin layer of absorbent material, usually silica gel. The objective of this experiment is to identify sample components by performing TLC with a standard sample, and to understand the interrelationship between solvent polarity, component polarity, and RF. Health and safety. Avoid breathing the vapour of toluene and dichloromethane. All capillary tubes must be disposed of in the designated beakers, and do not place them on the desk. When pouring solvents into TLC jars, use a fume cupboard. And finally, do not take TLC plates into notebooks or take them home, as they must be handed in at the end of the session. 102 Part A is TLC of coloured compounds. Hold the TLC plate by edges or with tweezers and carefully using a pencil draw a horizontal line on your TLC plate about 8 mm from one end of the plate. Make 2 evenly spaced marks on the line of where to place your solution. Spot your solution onto the marks using a capillary tube. The spots should be of different intensities. Using tweezers, place the plate into a developing jar containing toluene. Loosely close the lid and wait for it to run. Do not move the jar while the plate is running. Repeat this process again but with solvents dichloromethane and ethyl acetate. Whilst your TLC plate is running, sketch in your duplicate book each plate indicating the colour, size and shape of each spot, also recording their RF values, which can be calculated by dividing the distance travelled by the spot by the distance from the baseline to the solvent front. 102 Part B is TLC of a colourless compound. Collect your sample from the demonstrators and set up the TLC plate as before. For Part B, only use toluene as a solvent. Once the plate is run, mark in the fume cupboard with a pencil and allow the solvent to dissolve. Using a UV box, outline the spots observed with a pencil and record the distance travelled by the solvent front and each spot. Notes: the plate will appear purple under UV light if the solvent is not fully evaporated. Do not look directly at the UV light source as it will damage your eyes. 102 Part C is TLC analysis of proprietary medicines. Collect your tablet and note the brand name. Grind into a powder using a clean pestle and mortar, and in the fume cupboard transfer the ground tablet into a test tube with a spatula. Using gloves and a pipette, add concentrated ammonia solution about 3 ml and the same volume of dichloromethane. Mix well with a glass rod and allow the layers to separate. Using a long pasture pipette, transfer the lower layer to a small sample tube. If droplets of water are present, carefully decant the dichloromethane extract into a clean sample tube. Stopper and keep for TLC analysis. To analyse the extract just obtained, apply one spot to a silica gel TLC plate and a reference spot of caffeine. Use methanol to develop and locate components using UV light. If you see streaking on your plate, it means that the dichloromethane sample is too strong, so add more solvent and repeat. Record the distance travelled by each spot, the solvent front, and similar data from your group partner. Tips and tricks. When applying a suction bulb to a pasture pipette, hold one side of the bulb with your thumb pressed to the pipette and pull it down so the pipette is now secure. While you are waiting for your TLC plate to run, you can start to draw them into your book to save time. If your extract in Part C is cloudy, it can be filtered by passage through cotton wool placed in the neck of a pasture pipette.
Help when doing your proforma. When drawing TLC plates, make sure that they are uniform and add the right amount of spots by right-clicking on the TLC plate that you've just drawn. When drawing structures like aspirin and caffeine, make sure you use the drop-down bar to check your structures before putting them in the proforma. Try and look up or figure out the polarities of the solvents you've used. This will come in handy for your proforma.
Questions. Should you use a pencil or pen when drawing on a TLC plate? The answer is a pencil. How do you work out the RF value? Is it A or B? The answer is B. And finally, what solvent is used in Part B? Toluene, dichloromethane, or ethyl acetate? The answer is toluene. This has been your 5-minute chemistry cram. Enjoy your practical and we'll see you next week.